Welcome back to Talking Dragon Age, the show where I talk about Dragon Age. Today we are recapping some theories about the Blight. Oh lord, there's a lot of them. Okay, first theory is the Blight comes from the Void. Different cultures have different takes on the Void, but most of what they say about its nature is not mutually exclusive. Though some Thedosians believe it is entirely evil, others argue it is neither evil nor good. It's just nothing. A cult called the Empty Ones worshipped the Blight and claimed returning to the Void was something to be celebrated, as it meant an end to all pain and suffering. They probably died out centuries ago. We don't know how one reaches the Void. To our knowledge, the only one who knew was Flemeth, after stealing the knowledge from Andruil, but who knows. Here's one idea. The wellspring here... There's a sky underground. What happens if I jump off the ledge? Is there a bottom to this place? Or is it just an empty void? Alright, so the Sidereal Magisters, the Magisters who broke into the Golden City and unleashed the Blight. Let me real quick talk about their name. Originally they were referred to as the Seven, but at some point the writers gave them the name Sidereal Magisters, or Magisters Sidereal. It doesn't matter, like Knights Templar. Templar Knights means the same thing. I'm not really a fan of this name. I liked just the Seven. They could have called them the Deadly Seven or the Deathly Seven. But hey, I'm just glad they didn't call them the Seven Ones. Yeah, I know Sidereal Ones makes more sense for that joke, but Seven Ones was funnier, so. Alright, so let's talk about Corypheus and the Architect. Accounts from Dwarves account for at least 3 others, maybe 4. One account claims one ate another, but we don't know if that means they're actually dead. Probably not. Maybe they merged and share a body now? Who knows? Hey, what happens if one of these guys slays an archdemon? It appears they've been wandering aimlessly for about 1,000 years. Memory loss and madness are kind of consistent here. Corypheus doesn't remember if the others even escaped the city. The Architect claims to remember nothing about his life. I'll talk about him in a minute. One thing is for sure, none of them can still be considered human. Everything down to their thought process is warped by the Blight. But the Darkspawn, I question how they gained numbers so fast. I talk about this more in their dedicated videos, but where did the first broodmothers come from? My theory is either one of the Sidereal Magisters intentionally created the first broodmother, or one of the Magisters was the first broodmother. A Sidereal broodmother. The Architect, I freaking love this character. His characterization in Awakening and in The Calling make him seem like just the most intelligent, destructive goober I've ever seen. But I question his word. He claims the Wardens brought to him were already dead, but we find this dude alive in his base with his legs crushed. He claims he intended to explain himself when he captured the Warden commander, but just stood there while we were attacked by dragons, and then ran away. Helping us with the dragons would have made a good opportunity to talk. Also, why didn't he use the same sleeping spell he used at the beginning? He claims the attack on Vigil's Keep was a misunderstanding, but the disciple he sent was... I like his messenger at Amaranthine. In fact, I like a lot of the Awakened. But yeah, I don't trust him. That's why I chose to reject his deal. But I theorize he will play a role in the Grey Wardens schism. I'll talk more about that later. But as it relates to the Architect, I think if we spared him, he'll be more cooperative with the Wardens. But if we killed him, he took over Serani and will be more likely to consider the Wardens as enemies. So, the Awakened. I use the word awaken to describe any Darkspawn that went through the Architect's reverse joining, and the word disciple refers to the ones loyal to the Architect. I don't know if that was the intention, that was just my interpretation. But a lot of them survived. Nathaniel certainly suggests some of them are still helping the Wardens. Though I now wonder if he's referring to the Scaled Ones, or maybe spirits. I still lean towards the Awakened. I wonder if some of the Awakened would go off and create their own society, possibly in an old dwarven thaig. That would be so cool, almost like Darkspawn monks. So let's talk about the old gods and archdemons. I theorize the old gods fought the Elves before the Evanuris rose to power, then were imprisoned within Titans. I think that's a better explanation than the old gods being directly connected with the Evanuris. I mean, I don't know why they would take on new names, or why their spheres don't match, or why they called Tevinter instead of the Elves, or how they got trapped underground in complex prisons. Though based on some artwork, they are somehow tied to keeping the Black City contained. The Chant of Light says there are 7 gates to the Black City, so that matches. Solas almost panics when he hears the Grey Wardens are planning to kill the old gods. But even then, it's the Blight that's the real problem. Oh yeah, the Black City is Arlathan. I don't know if I mentioned that. Though to be honest, I'm kind of hoping that's not the case at this point. The old gods spoke to the Sidereal Magisters through dreams, telling them to break into the Golden City. I question, why did they want that? Why wouldn't they call the Magisters to free them from their underground prisons? What did breaking into the city accomplish, except unleashing the Blight? My theory is they were trapped outside their bodies, and by breaking into the city, it somehow allowed their spirits to reconnect. That would explain why the old gods stopped communicating with Tevinter after this event, and why they couldn't call the Magisters to free them sooner. It wouldn't have mattered until they got back into their bodies. Once they were back, it was up to the Darkspawn to dig them out. Based on a letter from Cardall, it seems the empty prisons are even more unsettling than the archdemons themselves. Also, Grey Wardens who approached a prison could physically hear the calling instead of just in their minds. So with this, I propose the old gods aren't the ones emitting the calling. Rather, it's the prison itself. Though the calling is kind of weird since it's described and used in different ways. I'm less serious about that part of the theory than others. Maybe it's a warning to stay away, and that's why only blighted creatures can hear it. Oh god, and there's the whispers in Red Lyrium note. So let's talk about the Grey Wardens. They've been on the verge of civil war since Inquisition. We know they're being called back to Weishaupt, and there's rumors they're vying for more power in the Anderfels. I think the Architect is going to play a big role. Whatever quests we get for the Wardens, we'll probably have to pick a side between the two sub-factions. And I bet and hope we'll see some familiar faces along the way. Part of me believes Nathaniel will even be leading one of the groups. Which side depends on what the crux of the conflict is. I hope the Warden's Cure storyline isn't abandoned. It's too important. I don't know if it'll be resolved, but it can't be left dangling. Trespasser Epilogue says the hero of Ferelden returned if they romanced Liliana. Since we have reason to expect Queen Anora in the game, I do wonder how they will handle it if the Warden married Anora or Alistair. Speaking of which, if Alistair is a Warden and was romanced and survived in the Fade, I can't think of any reason why the Warden wouldn't be with him. Also, I'll talk more about this in a miscellaneous theory video, but the Warden is returning from the West, and the only thing we know of over there is a culture known as the Voshai, who have also returned to Thedas bearing troubling news. And that's most likely here in the Anderfels, so... Alright, so I want to talk a bit about possible ways to cure the Blight. Fiona was cured, we expect because she was impregnated by Merrick, who had the blood of a great dragon, which is different from regular dragons, so I don't think a Warden impregnated by a standard Reaver would have the same result. But who really knows? Also, Darkspawn instinctively avoided the Titan in the descent. That's interesting. And Merrill used blood magic to purify the tainted shard of the Eluvian, though she claims she could have done that with a ton of Lyrium if she had it. Isaiah used blood magic to draw out the taint of a clutch of griffin eggs, though they said that only worked because the Blight didn't have as good a hold on them yet. So if they had hatched, she wouldn't have been able to do that. I wonder if enough blood could purify a person, or even red lyrium. What if blood magic could revert red lyrium back to blue? And if so, would Solas do that for the idol? Or rather, find a blood mage to do it for him? Also, the Seekers are resistant to red lyrium, but... I don't know, that whole thing was confusing. And also, according to notes from alternate future Redcliffe, Liliana is naturally resistant to the Blight. and this happens regardless of any other choices. So, well, I suspect she has a better chance than most anyone else of bearing a Warden's child. And part of me hopes that if she nor Alistair were romanced, they end up together. So, yeah. And the last theory, which I couldn't find a good spot to include, is... You know how Tamlin sees a city with a great blackness in the Eluvian? Well, it's commonly theorized it's the Black City. But another possibility, and one I like a bit more, is that it was a dwarven tag. So, yeah, that's about it. So let me know what are some of your favorite theories on the Blight. For my next summary video, I'll probably cover the Qunari and then do the miscellaneous theories. So that's it for now, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to comment and like, and remember, Tala Nadas.